one.
Welcome to the Board of Commissioners budget hearings. This is November 17th, 2022. If you'll please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And just for the purpose of those watching at home, we've got folks coming in to make presentations today. Some may be here at the time that we're ready to hear them. Some may not. So we'll be pausing this meeting throughout the course of the day. Let's make sure we get an inspirational word. The inspirational word comes from Philippians. Give more honor to others than to yourselves. Do not be interested only in your own life, but be interested in the lives of others. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Lundy,
Here.
Commissioner Hahn, here, Commissioner Moore.
Here. Okay. Our budget hearings are going to proceed. We have Mr. Tom Orlando, our Clerk of Courts, to present his budget this morning, along with Kate Lentz. Good morning.
Good morning, Board. How are you today?
We're great.
Great. All right, so for our 2023 budget, we'll start with our legal division, which is our general fund division. This year's budget our ask is for $1,210,922, which is approximately a little over a 3% increase from our 2022 budget. In the past, we have been able to, actually, I think we went 4 or 5 years where we actually reduced our budget every year in the legal division. But we did incorporate raises this year for our employees, and the cost of doing business has gone up. Supplies, everything is, as you know, with inflation, has definitely made the cost of running the office more expensive. So we're asking for a little over 3% from our 2022 budget. And, we have been very careful in that division. When I took office in 2015, we had 29 employees in that division. We have today 24 employees. And that's before any real technological advances, which we hope are coming in the future. And then I'll move over to our title division, which is a special revenue division. And in that division this year, our budget projection is $1,568,640. And we did include costs in there for capital improvements. We renovated most of the office in the fall of 2018, and we did that with certificate of title funds, not general fund monies. And we do want to finish the part of the office where we have some filing space back there, and we think that we can increase the efficiency of the office and make it a better workplace for our employees. We don't know if we're going to do it yet. We have an architect that is looking at the space now, but we wanted to add that this year so we wouldn't need an appropriation during 2023. So we are considering that. And in that division, 2015, when I took office, we had 19.5 employees. We had a part-timer. And to date, we have 12 employees in that division. So when I took office, between the two, we had 53 and a half employees. And now we have 38. So we've definitely been able to streamline. And part of that is, and I want to discuss this with the board too, just to make sure, as far as the title division, it is a special revenue division. It's not a general fund division. And even today, as we're coming and asking for our budget to be approved, the money that will be approved for the title division, auto title division, is not general fund money. That is money that was generated through auto title transfers, passport applications, watercraft transfers and registrations, which I added in 2015. So those monies, even though the board's approving them, are not coming out of the general fund to fund that division, okay? And I know my office is, a small part of the whole county's operations. I understand that. And you know, we hear a lot about people trying to streamline government, shrink government. I mean, I've actually done that in the Clerk of Courts. And in the auto title division, we used to have 4 offices. We were able to consolidate 4 offices into 2 offices. So we shrunk our footprint, which also lowered our cost as far as operating costs. And I did that with the partnership of the United Steelworkers. Our hourly employees in the auto title division are members of the United Steelworkers. And they've been good partners in this process. And because of our diligence in running an operation that was lean, but also really focused on customer service, we were able to generate excess funds in that division. And the timing worked on our side. You know, we cut costs when times were good. And when our leases were up during the pandemic, we took another look at how we run things, and we decided to consolidate, and we were able to do that in part too because of the work we did in our main office of our renovation in 2018, and we were able to take advantage of some space in the Lorain office that isn't necessarily space that can be used when customers come in, but we kind of created an auto dealer room in that office where we can have employees working on dealer transfers, and a lot of those are electronic, and they can focus on that rather than having to answer the phone and work the counter. So we were able to increase our efficiency that way too. So in doing so, even though the auto market has slowed, it has slowed significantly, in part because of the supply chain issues, which is mostly because of part shortages. But even though the auto market is slowed, and everyone's feeling that because of the moves that we've made in the past, we're able now to donate. The last few years I've donated $500,000 to the general fund, and I say donate because this money was never in the general fund. It didn't come from the general fund to us and we're giving it back. That's not the case. And I want to clarify that and make sure the board understands. This is money from the certificate of title account. So when I donate that, I'm not giving the money back. I am donating that money. That is fresh, new money into the general fund. And the reason this year that we were able to donate, instead of $500,000, $750,000 is because of the work that our office does, the hard work our employees put in, and we were able to actually shrink government in the title offices, but still giving the public world-class service, which is very important to us. And I'm proud of how our employees worked hard there and to be able to do that. Like I said, talking about it is, you hear that a lot, but we've actually done that, and we've done it in a way where we still are providing the service that all of our citizens deserve. So we're happy to say that we are this year able, even though in a slowing economy, in a slowing auto market, to donate, not return, but donate $750,000 to the general fund. And that is donated with no strings attached. The board decides how they want to spend that money. But I just wanted to clarify that because it's not returning money. It is money that we generated from certificate of title. It never came from the general fund. And I just want to make sure all the members of the board understand that.
Mr. Landers, when you say certificate of title, these are fees when people are transferring their title?
That's correct, Commissioner
Much
Hung.
like other departments, I know we've had the auditor here talking about the special funds that are created. So this is something from, that's instituted from Ohio Revised Code. These are fees you can charge, and that goes into a special revenue fund. Just want to make sure we're clarifying for the public so they understand it.
Sure. That you are exactly right. And those are fees from auto title transfers, watercraft transfers of registration, passport photos, and application fees where we get a certain amount that the State Department lets us keep as a passport acceptance agency. It is that division, the auto title division runs on the fees that we generate, not from monies that are given to us by the general fund. It runs, it's called the Special Revenue Division, okay? One example where you'll see a difference. General fund employees, okay, where you fund that department, like our legal division, we pay our employees salaries and PRS. In a special revenue division, like certificate of title, we pay everything for the employees. We pay their salary, we pay their PRS, we pay their health care, we pay their workers' comp, we pay their life insurance. The general fund doesn't pay any of that. It is a self-sustaining division with fees. So that's why I want to clarify, when the clerk determines we have excess funds, I can donate those to the general fund. And believe me, if I would have kept 4 offices or had 5 offices like some counties our size in Ohio have, I wouldn't have the excess funds to donate. We're able to do that through the way we run that division.
One more follow-up question,
Sure.
just for the public. So Ohio Revised Code doesn't require you to do with this. You are doing this as your choice to do this.
That is correct. That is correct. And the only way I'm able to do that, Commissioner Hung, is because of the partnership we have with our employees and United Steelworkers. We've had some discussions, and my Director of Operations, Kate Lentz, can tell you, with other clerks during the pandemic when offices were closed and not closed. We kept our certificate of title division open all the way through the pandemic. And one of the reasons that we had such a burst during the pandemic, too, of new people coming in, we had individuals and auto dealers from other counties coming to Lorain County to transfer title because they weren't able to do so in their counties. But we still, even though it was busy at that point, we still made the decision that we could operate in a more responsible manner by consolidating those offices into 2. And things are going very, very well. And because of those cost savings, we are able to donate that money. So yes, it is a donation. It's not returning money, it's a donation. This money never came from the general fund.
No, thank you. And then you make a good point. If they were closed in Cuyahoga County and you were open, and I remember that time, and the glass being installed and all the safety protocols that your office put in place. So Lorain County then picks up those fees because Cuyahoga County wasn't open,
Sure,
correct?
you are exactly correct. Yes, that's correct. Any questions from the board on those excess funds or how those are generated? And just to clarify that is a donation and not a return of funds.
Any other questions?
Oh, I'll save mine for later.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I think your request looks reasonable. I think we have to start weaning people off the Kool-Aid that we've been blessed with lately with federal dollars, and being able to fill a lot of holes and do a lot of things. But, we've got to get back to reality and get a reality check this budget cycle. So, but I think your request looks to be reasonable.
Well, I appreciate the Commissioner Lundy. And just going back to being reasonable, I think the moves that we made during the pandemic now, I think are paying dividends, where I think other counties, especially with the slowdown in the auto market, and with interest rates rising also affecting that as well, I think are going to have to make some tough decisions. And I can tell you from discussions we've had and communications with other clerks around the state, I believe that we run one of the most efficient, if not the most efficient, auto title division in the state of Ohio. And the way that it's hard to compare in the legal division because everyone's on their own with what type of case management system they run. It's like the wild, wild west. There's no statewide system. Where in auto title, we have what's called ATPS Blue, which is a statewide auto title division. So every county, all 88 counties in the state, run the same software for auto title. So it's kind of an even playing field. We're all using the same technology. And because of the work, that our employees were willing to put in and the partnership we've had, we've put ourselves in a good position. And believe me, myself and our management team, we relish the fact that we can donate that money to the general fund because we want to help the rest of the county out as well. And if we can put our 2 cents in, we'll do that. And I hope to continue to be able to donate these type of funds. And maybe in the future when things pick up, I can donate even more. I'd love to do that to help the rest of the county out.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
All right, thank you.
It was more than 2 cents.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Just so everybody knows the agenda, next up will be the prosecutor's office, and we're running a little bit ahead of schedule, so at this point we will pause the meeting and we'll return when the prosecutor's office has representation to present. Okay, we're going to resume our budget hearings this morning. Up next on the agenda is the Prosecutor's Office with Prosecutor J.D. Tomlinson, his Chief of Staff, Jim Burge. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning, members of the commission, Mr. President. This year, I don't know if you can tell from our budget, but there are a few things that I should comment on in case you have questions. We ran into a situation, we didn't know about it last year as much as this year. In a prior administration, we had our employees were led to believe that they could accumulate vacation time. And so somebody decided to read the statute, and it occurs that you can only carry over 3 weeks of vacation each year. And that's to a maximum of 3 weeks. And we had at least a dozen employees, some of whom had as much as 6 months or nearly a year of vacation time built up, which they, I think in good faith, they believed they would get paid for. And what had occurred is with these dozen or so employees that we had, we were getting to the point where it was almost mutiny. And what we decided to do is, again, follow the statute, and we were able to pay them out, we would be able to pay them out 1 day of pay for each 2 days of vacation that they had earned. This will cost us $76,000, and we are asking for that in our budget so that we can pay these people out, and that would zero balance all of our employees with respect to vacation. Now, the better side of that is at the close of this year, we'll be able to refund to you $67,000 of surplus, and so that it would be a net $9,000 to pay off our employees. We're asking for that. In addition, we're asking for an increase in our salary account for 2 reasons. One, we would like to give an across-the-board cost of living raise to the employees, and we are asking for an additional 8% because we must fund 3 new positions, and that will purchase us 2 secretaries and 1 attorney, which will be hired into our civil division. Except for expanding the size of the office, because we are expanding our offering of service to government agencies, the budget is exactly the same, our request is exactly the same as it was last year, except for these 3 new positions that we have to fund. We're asking for an additional $7,000 to our fuel account. As the Commission knows, our investigators are serving subpoenas daily, and it's costing us a great deal of money in auto fuel. Auto fuel is an expense that the prior administration didn't have, but we are paying our accounts for fuel at the engineer's office, and it's been expensive. In fact, I think over the last year, the Commission has had to supplement our fuel account for vehicles, and about, I think it was about $5,000, I think I asked for. We're asking for approximately $1,600 increase in our supplies account, and $500 for miscellaneous auto repair. Other than that, it's just about the same as last year, except, again, where we're expanding services. And if the Commission has questions, I'll try to answer them.
Mr. President, if I could direct to Casey, the Budget Director. So Chief of Staff Burge said that we did an additional $5,000 for the gas. So if I'm looking at here last year, it was $11,000. I just want to clarify. So
Yeah, that would have
we're
been
going to raise it $5,000 because that's what your estimate is. for
Yes,
this year?
yes, yes.
Do those numbers square? with
Yes, yeah,
Casey?
that
Okay.
makes sense.
And then so I guess this is me nicely saying, Mr. Birch, so you're not gonna come back for more fuel money, you've got it kind of figured out.
Yeah, Commissioner, if.
Best you can. We
if
don't know. Gas prices
yes,
could go
exa-
$5. We have
Exactly.
no idea what it'll be.
If,
Yeah.
if the price of gas goes down, maybe we'll have a surplus again next year, hopefully.
Okay, and then, just to, for the public, you said you wanted to add 3 personnel, positions, which were those again? Which
Yes.
job postings?
In our civil division, we have to hire a new lawyer and 2 support staff, 2 secretaries.
Attorney, and then, 2, like administrative assistant type
Yes,
folks, okay.
and that's in our civil division.
Okay, so that's 3. And then the salary increases, what percentage was that again?
Well, I didn't mention it, but it's 3.
3% you're looking at?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I got yelled at last year for saying, for saying that.
Well, and I asked because then sometimes, you know, what happens is the reporter calls and then asks, you know,
Yeah.
oh, well, you know, how
Okay.
much are the raises gonna be?
I
So,
get it, okay.
yeah. All right, I think that's it for me.
For the public's information, would you explain the 4D and the 4E programs?
Oh, yes. 4D. In the 4D program, in the 4D unit, our attorneys file paternity actions to establish parentage. They obtain support orders for children. They follow up with contempt if payors are not paying, and we bring them to court in an effort to make them pay. And we also have a criminal non-support docket. So if you've missed paying your support in any 26 weeks in the 2-year period, we will charge you with a felony. And our 4D section handles that as well. Now, 4E, that is strictly God's work. The lawyers in that division, they go into homes and they remove neglected and dependent children. They work very well with Children's Services on those cases, and probably 4 of the most conscientious lawyers you'll find are in our 4E division. They're dedicated to the children.
Can you explain the 10% increase in the 4E program?
Yes,
Because I noticed 4D is pretty much almost flatline, but it's actually less. But the 4E program rather was up.
yes, it's up
10%.
because my understanding of that is that now we have to fund a position. Traditionally, the funding had come from Job and Family Services, but now we've agreed to fund a position ourselves.
Okay, how'd that happen?
Yeah, I was thinking.
Well, Dan Petticord explained it this way, is that they were going to provide us with an additional, they were going to finance all of the attorneys that we had now if we were willing to fund the position ourselves. That's the way it was explained to me.
Okay, have to look into that a little
Yeah,
more.
we might need further clarification.
Okay.
Okay.
I will examine that. I'll get back to you immediately on that.
Okay. So overall, you're looking for just a little bit over 8.25% increase in your budget.
It would seem so.
Just know I'm going to be a little tighter this year on where we're going budget-wise.
I would
and,
imagine.
So we're probably going to be somewhere in that 4% range for me. So I don't know what adjustments you need to make, but that's what I'm kind of looking at this cycle. We're trying to get back to a normal path of progress. So those are just some of my thoughts. Anybody else? We're good.
Okay, thank you.
Gentlemen.
Thanks for coming in. Good job yesterday, press conference.
You can end that, Victor.
Yeah.
they
Now,
taping?
wait.
Go ahead.
And we
Yep.
have
go.
returned
Okay.
for the budget hearings. Up next is OSU, the Extension Office, and Kyle White, Area Leader, Educator, and Jackie Baca with 4-H.
And so is Sally here too, but I didn't
Sally's
have
here.
that on the
Sorry,
agenda.
sorry,
so, yeah.
Sally.
And your last name, Sally, just so.
Hennessy, Hennessy.
Okay. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Good morning. Well, I will get started, and then I'm going to introduce, I have my colleagues here, so, and we wanted to bring Sally because her program is so robust. I'm Kyle White, as Commissioner Lundy said. I am a community development educator for Ohio State Extension in Lorain County and the area leader. For those of you who don't know what that means, is I basically supervise, guide, support 3 extension offices: Lorain County, Medina County, and Summit County. I am a community development educator in Lorain County and in Medina County. Just to let the record know. We're going to give a brief overview of our programs, and then we're going to go through all the information we provided in your packets. Each of you should have one at your places there. So I'm going to start with our SNAP Ed and FNEP programs. The SNAP Ed stands for Supplemental Nutrition and Assistance Program. Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, Education. FNEP is Expanded Food and Nutrition Education Program. These programs provide support and education to over 3,000 youth per quarter. They again teach, or they support learning in areas such as healthy eating and activities and exercise. We did hire a new program assistant in SNAP Ed, so now we have a total of 4 full-time employees in SNAP Ed and FNEP. Those positions are fully funded through a federal grant. We'll go through that when we go through your budget documents. Then I'd like to talk a little bit about our Ag and Natural Resources program in Lorain County. First of all, we have a very vital program. We work with a lot of homeowners. We have a lot of homeowners that come in seeking support for things like soil health, you name it, my tree, what's wrong with my branch, that type of thing. Also, we have commercial horticulture that we do a lot of work with. Our partners at, for instance, Green Circle Growers is one of our big partners, and then we also work with our farm community, and we've got some active research going on. Just to let you know, we also, our ag educator Ann Shannon did start a Master Gardener volunteer program, and she has currently got 23 Master Gardener volunteers. They're providing support, a lot of support right now for our Ag and Natural Resources program, because Ann, who has a family farm in Lake County, basically transferred to Lake County through extension as an ag educator there, because Lake County is a hike to Lorain County, I think we all know. In fact, I think right now they're under quite a bit of snow, so she would have had some trouble with her trip today. So we have interviewed. We have great candidates. We have an offer out for an Ag and Natural Resources educator right now. So we will keep you informed. But we have a very vital, robust program there as well, and it is being supported currently not only by Ann, she's providing support, but other ag educators and this wonderful group of Master Gardener volunteers. We also again have a community development program. I'm the community development educator. I am working with the Center for Food Innovation. Have you guys heard of that? Are you familiar with that? If not, there in your packet, there is a sheet that says New Organization Seeks to Strengthen Food Networks in the Region. It's an article that may help you become acquainted with what we do. The Center for Food Innovation launched, I'm just going to give you a real brief overview, from the 25% shift report that came out of the 2012 Appreciative Inquiry Summit in Cuyahoga County. And more or less, the gist is that if Northeast Ohio could produce enough food locally to provide 25% of the food for the region, that would result not only in more less food insecurity, but it would also provide 27,000 additional jobs. So out of that report, a committee grew, and it now involves Lorain County Community College, Ohio State University, Lorain Chamber of Commerce, Oberlin. There's venture capital firms from Chicago that are part of this. Minority-based groups. We're all working together to see if we can work out a program that would transition Northeast Ohio into a food hub. Not only production, but also processing, packaging, marketing, distribution. So if you want more information, please contact me. But we are in the middle of that. As a part of that, I took a course at Case Western Reserve University, recently got certified in appreciative inquiry, because the next step is for us to convene a summit of leaders. You'll be invited, probably in the spring of 2023, to begin the appreciative inquiry process, which is a strength-based approach to problem solving, managing change, and leadership development. So we're going to apply that appreciative inquiry to our issue, which is increasing food production and transforming Northeast Ohio into a food hub. I've also been working with Lorain County Public Health. We've had multiple meetings with them because they're interested in the program, the development of living skills. So if you get a chance, look at this. This program provides support for parents who are at risk of losing their children. They're referred. We have this program currently in place in Butler County, and parents are referred through the court system to our staff, who go into their homes and work with them very closely one-on-one. And then, let's see, also, I'm working on the possibility of becoming HUD certified to support the Akron Urban League, and there's one other group in Lorain County that provides HUD counseling, but that is a need in this county, so we want to provide that support as well. So I'm going to give the mic now to Jackie, who's going to talk a little bit about 4-H, and then we will continue going through all of your items.
Well, good morning.
Morning.
As Kyle said, my name is Jackie Baca. I'm the 4-H educator that provides the overall guidance and leadership for our program here in Lorain County. Out of curiosity, raise of hands, how many of you have heard of 4-H before? Everybody's hands are raised. Excellent. So what are the first thoughts or words that pop into your mind when we say 4-H?
There's 4 H's.
The 4-H's, yes. What are the 4-H's? Yes, head, heart.
Kids and shaping our future leaders.
Absolutely, absolutely. What else? What do you think, Mr. Saunders? He's like, I knew she was going to pick on me.
I cheat because I was actually member 4-H.
I remember that.
9 to 18 down in
Wonderful.
Stark County.
Wonderful. What was your favorite part?
The fair week. Like I said, I raised beef cattle and hogs and sheep and chicken. I raised them all, so that whole week was pretty amazing.
Excellent.
And, you know, that leads me to, I'm curious, these kids that you bring up in the program, you know, how many of them then volunteer as adults and give back? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I can. So the return rate of our kids to volunteering is pretty phenomenal. When our kids come back to the county, and some of our kids stay here and go to local colleges or trade schools, they want to return right away. We do require them to wait out a year or two before they can volunteer directly with the youth. And that just gives them time to mature and give them some space. And it allows when they return, for those youth to see them as volunteers and adults and not as their good friend, right? It really is a great thing to see how many of our volunteers return. We also see a lot of our volunteers that were in 4-H in other counties as well that say, hey, I want my kids in 4-H. You know, we had such a great time in Stark County or, you know, in Ashtabula or wherever they're coming from. So we have a significant number of our volunteers are here because they had such a good time in 4-H when they were growing up and want their kids to have the same. It's interesting, I just interviewed a volunteer this last week, and he wants to come, not because he has kids, at this time, but because he wants to make sure that kids get the same experience he had as a 4-H member. He wants to give back to the program that really provided such a sound foundation for him in terms of life skills. And that's really what we do in 4-H is we teach kids life skills through hands-on learning and a safe environment. That safe environment provided by our very important volunteers. In Lorain County, we have 3 delivery modes. Those 3 delivery modes are a lot of what you all kind of referenced, what Mr. Saunders referenced, is our community club model, which a lot of people are familiar with. Our school enrichment model, which I'm not going to talk a lot about. I'll save that for STEM Sally here. And then our special interest model. So we really have 3 different ways that we provide kids opportunities to learn life skills. Some highlights from this year and that we're looking forward to that I really wanted to share with all of you is we are seeing our numbers increase in all 3 of those delivery methods. Our community clubs, our school enrichment, and our special interest. We have noticed our kids have an interest in leadership, and our junior fair board membership has really just exploded. And we said, okay, we need to provide some more opportunities for our kids, because when you get too many, you lose some of those dynamics, right? And you want to make sure when you're competing for leadership opportunities that we're really giving all kids opportunities. So we have started a 4-H ambassador program. And the idea behind the ambassador program is to give youth opportunities to share what educational programs they're interested in, to talk to their peers and what they want to learn more about, to provide those opportunities at the county level, and for them to help put those opportunities on. So we're really excited. You know, one of the things that we really like about 4-H is that peer-to-peer teaching. Kids always, I think in life in general, we level up, right? We're looking at what the next best thing is. And it's interesting, I could teach a program and I can have a teen next to me teaching the program. We could say the exact same thing in the exact same tone of voice, and those younger kids don't necessarily hear what I said, but they hear what that teen says. Wow, did you know that? So it's pretty interesting the power that has, and we really want to utilize that to the best of our abilities. Another highlight that I'm excited to share with you is through one of our special interest programs called Carteens. Have any of you heard of Carteens before? Good, Miss Upton is shaking her head. So this is a program that we do in collaboration with our county courts. So minors that receive a moving violation, they get a ticket, get sentenced by the judge to Carteens. It's a 2-hour educational program, and they work with our 4-H Carteens program assistant to learn safe driving habits. The nice part of this program is we have also, with what we've learned from coming off of COVID is kids sometimes like the in-person, sometimes they like Zoom. So we're offering both as we're moving forward into 2023, in-person and Zoom, to make it a little more usable for some of our families and our youth that are sentenced to Carteens. They go to a 2-hour program. They get to engage with sheriff's deputies and with our state officer patrolmen as well. They collaborate with us, and they bring a whole nother level of information and importance of developing those safe driving habits. So we've seen some great increase in those numbers as well. We want to think the increase isn't because kids are not as good drivers as they used to be. I think the increase that we're seeing in Carteens really has to do with our relationships with the courts and looking at expanding beyond just our county courts and into some of our city jurisdictions as well. So that is all I'd like to share with you for the time being. I could talk about 4-H all day, every day. So if you have questions, come ask me. I'm going to turn it over to Sally to tell you a little bit about.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Hang on, Jack.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just, I noticed the 4-H youth enrollment is up significantly, but the adult volunteers is down.
Adult volunteers is also up. Yep, not a lot, but we are
Shows
also
like it's
up.
I'm
down
showing-
about 50
Yeah.
from 16.
It seems like it's been dropping since 2016.
Also, I'm looking at, take a look at these numbers here.
Right, in the huge jump.
Well, you guys are adding Carteens as part of 4-H enrollment. So
Right.
if you're going through the Carteen, you had 350 people.
Correct.
So you haven't, how long has Carteens been around?
There.
Carteens has been around for as long as I've been here, so quite a while.
But if they're getting in trouble, right? That's what the Carteens is. These are kids that get speeding tickets.
Right.
In some counties,
go to the microphone.
You can go to my,
Numbers we had when we did the budget.
do you see what I see? Okay.
Where did you get those numbers?
So are these real numbers of 4-H is what I'm questioning. Okay, that's what I,
Sorry, those numbers wrong, do we need to update?
So I think we may need to update these numbers. There's a couple different,
no, both are in.
be-
okay.
because, yes, great questions. Because of how we're funded, federal, state, and county, we have 3, sometimes 4 when we add in grant systems to report to, and they all want the numbers slightly different, and they all want slightly different numbers. Sometimes they want to count Harteen's volunteers, sometimes they want to count Sally's volunteers, so it's all based on which system we pull from. I use the 4-H online enrollment system, and that system requires a minimum of 6 hours contact time for our youth. So when we're looking at those numbers, it's just a little slightly different. So I'll confer with Kyle to see where we got our enrollment numbers here, and we'll get these updated for you. We are seeing an increase. We got an increase of about a little over 20 volunteers this last year with our 4-H community club model. We are looking at the ratio of youth to adults because we do want to be careful that we are still youth-driven and all about the youth. There's something to be said for having that right ratio so that we've got the youth empowered and in those leadership roles and driving our program underneath the guidance of our adults. So, but great questions. What other questions do you have?
Was there, if you could speak to, was there a dip in enrollment due to the COVID time?
Yes, there was. There was a pretty significant dip in enrollment, both youth and volunteers, and in all 3 of our delivery models. Mhm.
Okay, I guess we'll let Sally.
All
say
right,
what Sally
great.
needs to say,
Thank
and then we'll go into
you.
the numbers.
Oh, jeez. And I'm thinking, you don't need to listen to anybody else talk any longer, so.
I'm just gonna say one thing before, those numbers in that grid, I prepared that months ago when we were starting this, so it's my bad. We will fix that grid and we'll get you a revised one.
No, it's fine.
And probably, Kelly, let us know how long you've been doing the program. The Carteen, is that what
It
it's
has to
called?
be at least 20 years, I can
Carteen's,
tell you
yeah,
that.
Sherry was hired right around when I was,
20.
About 2015.
about, yeah, 16, 15, right around there.
Wait a minute, they're saying
Yeah.
15, 16.
Well, let's see, if you minus that, he's
That's all
16,
7
so,
7 years.
no, at least 19 years.
He thinks 19 years.
I think that's probably
Oh.
correct because we had somebody doing the program before Sherry. So that's just when
okay.
Sherry was hired.
Oh,
Yep.
okay, okay, sorry. Oh, because you send the people to her probably, or somehow involved.
do anything
No,
with that.
okay.
Been here a
Oh,
long,
okay.
long time.
Ah, okay. Anyway, I guess the bottom line with my program, it's absolutely booming. I can't be enough places. I need to clone myself, and I can't obviously do that. So we've been trying to reach, figure out more ways that we can reach more people. I think the bottom line is that in schools right now, they're struggling with enough people to do all the things they're required to do by the state, with testing and kids that have special needs and kids that are a little bit different now that they've been through COVID. And one of the things that I'm finding is that when I'm in one school in a district, say I'm in a 3rd grade teacher in one building, the other 3rd grade teachers in the other buildings want me to be there as well. They want, equal opportunity. It's like now in Elyria, they have some things built into their curriculum, so I do provide something for everyone.
Sally, so, and I don't mean to interrupt you, just, if you could just stop and give the public a snapshot. When you say you're going into a school, stand by the microphone.
In the mic.
Sorry, I'm like,
Just give the public a snapshot of what you do. So you're gonna go into a school. Tell us what you do when you go into that school.
say I go into a 3rd grade program that, and they happen to be in a geology unit, one of their life science standards is, there's something about earth science in 3rd grade, that my geology program on rocks, the rock cycle actually fits, and there's a starburst rock cycle activity that I do where I give them a big, beautiful color printout of the rock cycle that's geared towards their age, and then we actually create the 3 sedimentary, metamorphic, and igneous rocks out of starburst candy. And I'm sorry, when you say starburst candy to a 3rd grader, you're in.
Well, this is exciting stuff for them.
And it's so neat because, sedimentary rocks are formed with compacting and cementing, so it just takes pressure to form them. So they take two sediments, which are Starburst candy, and they press them together until they squish, and then they set them on the right place in their rock cycle diagram. Then for the metamorphic rock, we have rock that starts compacted and cemented, but we have to add heat before we add that pressure. And so that's why I bring in a couple of microwave ovens. And so we pop them in there for 10 seconds, and we run them back to the table, and they take them, they're smashing them in, and it's in parchment paper. And so there's lots of noise, and there's lots of activity. And then they set them down while we're talking about creating an igneous rock. Those are cooling so that they can form some funky shape that looks different from the first one. And then the third one we have to talk about, they only use one for the third one because we do actually have to melt it. And oddly and delightfully, Starburst does melt in the microwave, become really shiny and bubbly, and then when it is cool, so that's the magma stage, we first have to melt the rock. Liquid rock is called magma, lava, and then when it cools, it's what we would refer to as igneous rock, and it actually looks like that. It's crazy. It's kind of bubbly. They pick it up. It crackles into a bunch of pieces. It's lighter than the other rock types. So it's that kind of thing.
And they love it. And
They do.
So this is a snapshot of going into a third grade classroom.
Yeah.
You go, just tell us, you go, and make it short though, but you go from what grade to what grade, and kind of, some of the areas of the county that you visit.
I'm currently in almost every area of the county. I start in kindergarten, not pre-K. Kindergarten through second, I usually focus on forces of flight and density. Those are two math standards that we try, or science standards that we try to hit there. Third through fifth is more the earth science and the life science. And then as they get fourth and fifth and sixth, we're talking more force and motion. So we're doing more activities that have to do with things that are moving, and either electricity or wind power, or something that relates to what they're doing. We have a polar activity. It's just a bunch of
So
stuff.
during the
I
school
can't-
year, and I'm
Yeah.
just trying to kind of just
That's
drill
okay.
this down for the public.
That's okay.
During the school year, you are basically out on the road in Lorain County, how
Yeah.
many days a week?
Some days, some weeks it's 4 days a week. Some days it's less. It depends. Some days I'm going from one place to the other, in one day.
More than
Other
one
day,
school.
yeah, more than one school, more than one district even. And other times, they're trying to change their schedule so that I can see every third grader in one day. So they, mess their schedule up so that I can see the repeated,
Okay.
all in
And so the
one.
gist of it is, there's only one Sally.
I know, yeah. But I did send a link. I'm finding that if I do a school-wide program, that's a way to help the parents become involved in their science education. We did that at Westwood recently, and I've got 2 more on the schedule because of that program. So that's a way to, I'd rather be in the classroom supporting the teachers because I know that's what they need and what they want, because I bring in the stuff, I've done the shopping, I've tied it to the standards, I bring the enthusiasm. They just kind of pitch in and help. And unfortunately, I also probably get them kind of riled up. But at least,
your personality,
when they
probably
see me,
love
they're
it when
like,
you come in.
we're doing
Hang on,
science.
Kyle, I'm not done
Yeah.
asking questions.
Yeah, right. They're-
I just want to make sure we don't run over our time.
They
I
like,
think we got an early start.
my favorite part of this job is that when I live in Oberlin, but when I'm shopping somewhere, my husband's always kind of like, oh, she's gonna run into kids. And they like, Miss Sally, oh, and it's like, yeah, I grocery shop also. I do. I'm a regular person too. But when I go into a building and I'm not necessarily in their class, it's a lot of fun because they're like, oh, you're in whose class? Why aren't you in our class? And I'm like, pull out a card, give this to your teacher.
Yeah,
Have them
so,
call me.
and just so the public understands, we and Commissioner Lenny's mentioned it too about, tightening our belt and watching the budget and really looking at those numbers this year. But just want to make the public understand, so when we're talking about an increase, we're talking about an increase to give a program type assistant for what you do.
For what I do.
Specific,
Because we can't clone you, can we?
I can't.
No? Okay. You can't be in two places at once.
And I'm kind of glad we can't clone her. I'm not sure I could control a second one.
It's a little
That's all
loud
I
in the office when I'm there.
And, you know, to your point, Commissioner Hung, I mean, we have tremendous demand for this program. It exceeds our capacity. So I'm gonna let you ask more questions, but I'm gonna quickly go over what the budget, the requests are. Our first request, it says maintain. That first request would be just keep everything as it is right now. We do have a grant to add a staff member in the summer that would expand Sally's program because there's so much demand for the summer programming. And so we are asking for a modest increase because the university did approve 3% raises. So I just, you know, that is the difference. So if you look, and I know you guys have already been combing over this. I should have probably waited to give it to you until after. It's kind of like you do with a class. You don't give them their materials. But if you look at the back of page 2, the 2022 appropriation that you so generously invested in us, and hopefully you see that this has been very well invested. We have really, really gotten the motor running here. $229,100 from you and $17,400 from the solid waste grant that you also work with us on. So what we're asking for in the request 1, if you'd be willing to help us with the raises, would be an increase to $236,000, and then the solid waste grant.
So Ohio State approved the raises, but said,
We,
ask the commissioners for the money?
well, what happens is the university, if you go back to page 1, they provide the raises in the last column at the top of page 1. And then everything that's portion supported by Lorain County Commissioners, we need to get through our office. So if the commissioners don't, then we would have to increase, you know, we would have to find the funds somewhere else because the university does the final column. They provide the benefits and excess salary to the educators, and we do fully fund the CAR Teens program through the revenues we bring in there. So that is our ask. We're thrilled with the generosity that you've given us. So please, if you think about that, we're very content and very happy and hope that we can maintain what we had.
And on the grants, Kyle, are you the one that goes after the grants? I mean, are you checking, or do you have people that help you to see what's out there that you could be going after?
Right now, our office team seeks the grants. I've got a plan in mind, but I haven't been able to execute it yet, to hire a grant writer. We had talked about that previously. But that did not happen at this point, so we do the work on that. We do the legwork. But I always have a plan. So did you have any other questions on that?
I'm sorry, I'm monopolizing the time. I apologize.
No.
No,
Okay.
it's okay.
And then the second request would be if you would be willing to fund a program assistant to expand the programming, again, in the schools and in the libraries and the summer program. So that's the difference. If you look at the back of page 2, that's the difference in the price, and that would be to cover the salary and benefits for the program assistant. The university pays for educators, and they provide the federal grant for the SNAP Ed and FNAP team. So, what other questions? I mean, I want to make sure we respect your time.
I'm sorry, I'm monopolizing time. Can you take us back a couple of years? I remember in 2020, wasn't there a situation where there was funding from Ohio State? Because we had that jump from 90 to 132. Wasn't there funding from Ohio State that they ended up pulling back the reins on some of what they were giving you? What happened at that time?
From 90 to 130, I think,
2020 was 90, and then the budget increased to 132.
you know,
in
Commissioner
2021.
Hung, I can't recall. The university has a set formula that they provide for extension. So we, in 2020, 2021, and prior to that, until 2022, when you fully funded us, we sought grants, and we did have grants from the Nordson Foundation and from the Community Foundation of Lorain County, and they still do provide some funding that covers the expenses for Sally, because her expenses are high because she has to buy things like this metal tape that she uses to make cards for kids. Take little tiny LED lights and little tiny batteries and this metal tape, and they make something that creates a light, and they see how the electrical circuit works. So, and these things are not cheap. I mean, so she buys all kinds of stuff to make slime. I mean, there, you should see her office. It looks like a rummage sale. So, and she uses all these things on a regular basis.
No, that's okay. What kind of additional funding did you get from Ohio State? Just, did you get any additional funding?
They have a set formula, Commissioner Lundy.
Yeah,
That's a
well, they
wonderful
have
question.
to revisit their set formula.
I know.
'Cause, this is, we're reasonable people here, but last time I checked, it's a pretty successful university. And I know these programs are very important. And, I'm a former legislator, so
Yes.
basically when they came to the legislature, I don't think they ever heard the word no. Obviously I'm a big Ohio State fan.
Yes.
But when it comes to budgetary things, I'm just perplexed by a program that has such great impact on the youth in the community and how the university isn't stepping up more. And whatever their formula is, obviously it's archaic, because now what's happening is that it's almost like the unconstitutional school funding, where most of it comes from the local side of the ledger instead of the state side of the ledger, and we're getting into that area now. If we were to approve, I think what your number 2 request is, where we would actually be providing more of the funding than you'd be receiving from the state, I believe, in the federal funds.
Well, and to be fair, I do want to make sure that, as part of the record here, that the university does not fund us through their, through admissions or through anything other than the Farm Bill. So the Farm Bill appropriates a certain amount for land-grant universities. We receive whatever our proportion of that is from the Farm Bill through the federal government, the Morrill Act and the like, and then we receive a portion of it, and that is then divided between Ohio State and Central State. So then we are given, the 88 counties are, based on, I would guess, population, receive a portion of the proceeds. So, and also, we do have very successful SNAP-Ed and FNEP programs. So our programs do receive a nice amount from the federal grant that supports their salaries fully. So I guess I would say that of the 11 people, it would be 12 if we added another person. You divide 12 into, what we're asking, the 280. It's a little over 20,000 per person, maybe 25,000 per person because of these other grants. But I fully understand. I mean, this is an aggressive ask. Number 2 is. Number 1, we are thrilled that you fully funded us. That gave us the time to spend building these programs. And it did help us tremendously. If you can see the number increase. And I'm going to redo that grid, or that the formula that I used on the back of the page here.
Well,
that
we're
had the
all,
numbers.
we're all advocates for the youth, and I love the 4-H program, and wow, it's just an amazing program. Can't say enough good things about it. And anytime we can, help youth get to them as early in life as possible and teach them good life skills, and you can tell, you talk to the 4-H members, and including our own Casey Saunders, and they're such professionals, and and they seem like they've been brought up well and everything else. But I'm just disappointed that the university's not stepping up more. And just for the public information, I mean, we're talking about in 2020 we were at $90,000, and were we to go to, and we bumped that up to 132, 229. If we go to the 280, it's like a 300% increase since 2020.
I fully understand, and I do want to make the point that we wanted to let you know about this opportunity this is where we're aiming for in the future. And, possibly we could go back to the Nordson Foundation or or the Community Foundation. I think they would fund us, they would help us. The issue is right now is we want to continue to provide the level of service that we are right now, because we've grown a lot and we want to provide that level of service. And if we can add another person, great. If not, we will live within the constraints that we've got, and very healthily, may I add, because the thing with 4-H, the critical thinking skills that these youth are able to gain, not to mention the fact that this whole idea of STEM, I had a colleague who said, I hope you're not using the word STEM because kids don't like that word. That's not really true. The way Sally brings the STEM program, instead of saying, okay, now we're going to teach engineering, she comes at it with the approach, what would happen if we put two starbursts in the microwave and squish them together and then do this or do that? And the kids begin to look at these topics of, science, technology, engineering, and math from a whole different light. How does this work? Instead of, that scares me, I don't think I even want to look at it. The electric currents, everything. So we're expanding the kids' view of the world, and frankly, Sally is teaching them how to write apps instead of how to use apps. She's teaching them how to write programs, computer programs, instead of use other people's. And for the future of the workforce, that's what these kids need for the skills. So we're bringing that, K through 12. We are so grateful. Hopefully you see that your investment paid off.
And I hate to cut you short here, Kyle. Can I interrupt
Commissioner
Commissioner
Moore.
Moore? Go ahead, Commissioner Moore.
Nope, go ahead.
Nope, you go ahead.
No, I just want to finish, that's all.
Oh, I was going, yeah.
No, they're not going to like my finish.
Okay.
You're going to come back and give us some new numbers, correct?
Yes.
If you could
For the
come back,
volunteers.
if you could come back with numbers showing maybe only receiving 90,000 from this county, I would like to see what your programs look like. I would also, I think it should be called Lorain County, not Ohio State. When we're providing 43% of your total budget, and Ohio State's, similar to what Commissioner Lundy said, they're only ponying up 24%. We're ponying up 43%, and we've been very aggressive, I think very kind these last 2 years, if you look at the numbers, okay? By statute, I don't think we have to give you a dime, okay? So I'm looking at this more as we're operating in deficit spending right now, and I'm glad you're gonna come back with these numbers here in regards to the participation, but I'm not happy with the ask, and I'm, not really sure what this board's gonna decide to do. But if you don't mind, if you're gonna redo numbers, if you could do one with the $90,000, and maybe this board might come in with a number between there, I do not know. But I'm just saying, if you're gonna come back with more numbers, I would appreciate maybe a smaller ask. That's all I'm asking. I don't know how to debate, I don't wanna talk, because you're past your limit,
Yeah.
and the Board of Elections are a little bit more important right now, because, right, Commissioner? So they're coming up. So we ran out of time.
We
so-
will definitely get you
Okay,
those
thank you.
numbers.
And if I could add,
that?
Commissioner Moore, I don't want to sound like, the hardcore person here being hard on you guys, but you mentioned the grants and you mentioned the Community West Foundation and the other one, the Nord. So, are you still applying for those? I mean, you're asking for a much heavier lift from the commissioners, but are you still applying, and we got to make it short, and asking others for participation?
Yes, we have.
Instead of just
Okay,
coming to
thank
us
you.
and saying, do the heavy lift for us.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think the reality for the community too is that the foundations get leaned on pretty heavily these days too. So, and they seem to step up, but boy, you can only get leaned on so much, the foundation. So, okay, I think we went over that pretty well.
Thank you.
And then next, we'll move on to the Board of Elections. We've got Paul Adams, Director, Jim Kramer, Deputy Director, and
We should have kept these guys to the 30th, or the,
No,
no, the
come on
29th.
now.
That's
Be
what we
nice.
should have waited.
be nice.
No, they're still counting, and we're taking them, we don't want to take you guys away from
Well, I
counting.
actually called Paul and I said, this was before the election, it's really busy, I know you are, but you need to call me
No, he
back.
could-
He's like, okay, let's just get this over
No,
with.
we definitely won't keep you long. You got a lot of work to do back at the
I think
office.
it's loaded up. Do you
We
see
had a
it?
bunch
Okay,
of
yes.
protesters,
Okay.
but we kicked them out, so.
I'll tell you what, you guys are the most popular people. This past week,
Yeah.
everywhere I go, I get
Yeah,
at least 5, 6.
you're stealing all our press. That's a good
Well,
thing.
I will say, I appreciate some of the comments that all three of you have made to the press and at your
Okay.
commissioners' meetings, and also just getting out the right information about how this process works. Because it is different than other states, and there's a lot of questions that have been coming up. So we certainly appreciate everything you guys have done to get information out of how this process works for us.
Yeah, that Chronicle story was very well done the other day.
Oh, the other one, yeah, yesterday it was, right?
Yeah. So looking at that election now, already looking at 2023, and I can just use the mouse here to, okay. So looking at 2023, just some general ideas of what we're looking at. We're looking at a May primary, which will most likely be pretty full because most of our largest cities are going to have mayoral primaries in some of the biggest cities in the county. So we anticipate that's going to increase turnout and require those polling places be open throughout the county.
No special primaries. I'm sorry, I just had to drop that in there.
Well, right. Yeah, we're hoping not to
All
have
about
any
you
of
again.
those.
Okay, here we go.
Jim would be the first person to tell you, for us, it's just been constant. Not only this recent thing with the recount or
That
the
was so
the
much fun.
close
Let's
race,
do it
but-
again.
Yeah, all the stuff that's been going on. So we're hoping that we won't have that, and we're hoping there won't be an August special. But we are anticipating then a full November election in the county. The other thing to keep in mind is there's a possibility for another round of redistricting. The state legislative and congressional maps have been tied up in court. We've been informed that there may be new lines that come down to lead up to the 2024 primary, which, and I put in here, for us, when we look at 2024, that's going to begin for us immediately after the November election, because with a March primary, things are already getting off the ground in December. A couple of you will be coming in, getting petitions for us, filing those even before we get to 2024. So in addition to gearing up for that, but also the possibility that there'll be another round of redistricting that we're going to have to be doing at the end of next year. In addition to that, we're also going to be implementing our new e-poll books. The commissioners were generous to provide us the funds in this year's budget for our board to review a number of the certified vendors. One of the things that we've had some questions about are, the replacement of those poll books. Those poll books were first purchased and approved back in 2014, first implemented in 2015. Now we're looking to replace them. There have been some questions about, what kind of tablets do you use? What kind of equipment is used with those? Could we use different type of equipment? The only kind of equipment we can use for electronic poll books are those that are certified by the state of Ohio. And I believe there's 4 current poll book vendors that are certified.
Only 3 well-known.
Yeah, we had, after the commissioners approved that for our budget in this year's budget in 2022, we did see demonstrations from all of the different vendors. Our board members saw those and made a selection from the ones that are certified by the state. We were hoping to possibly do a pilot of those in this year's elections because the board did approve that earlier this year. Unfortunately, due to some supply chain issues, our vendor came back to us and just said, there's no way we can get these to you quick enough. And
August primary.
yeah, we were looking at the August primary to try. It would have been a perfect time to do it. It's just we couldn't get them quick enough. And then it got to a point to where leading into the November election, Jim's kind of our guru when it comes to a lot of the IT stuff. And he just said he didn't feel comfortable doing that pilot in a gubernatorial. So we called that off. But we're looking to then fully implement for the primary of 2023. So that is going to require some additional training, and I'll go over that later on here in the budget. But that is something else that we're looking to do in 2023. Overview of the budget. You can see our request is a little over $3 million. That request is a decrease of a little over $320,000. Basically, that's because you had provided the funds for those additional poll books that we purchased in 2022. So a lot of that funding we're not going to need going into 2023 because we've made that purchase going forward. And I did put there approximately $125,000 in chargeback and fees that the county will be receiving. Those chargebacks will be from the chargebacks we can have for 2022 that will go in the tax year of 2023.
Didn't we did an additional appropriation towards the end of last year, correct?
Yeah.
Did we do like $500,000?
I think the original budget request was 2.8 last year, and then towards the end of the year, I think there was maybe some equipment purchase, or maybe it was.
Correct, that was for the poll books.
Poll books,
Yep,
right?
yep,
Okay.
that was for the poll books.
Jimmy, you emailed on this just for the media if they're looking at this. Didn't you say, this is supposed to say 2022, not 2023. You've got 2023 twice on there. Do you see that?
No, that's actually,
No, it's.
That's correct.
right. That first line, 3 million, that's their current, that's their
Current.
ask this year.
That's their
and
ask.
then 323,000.
Oh, yeah, okay, got
Right,
it. Because you
right.
sent the email, I just wanted to make sure
Right.
it was right. So
I think there was one correction that I
reporting
did make,
incorrectly.
and that might have, yeah.
Okay,
that's right.
sorry, we stopped your train of thought there, Paul.
No, that's fine. That's why I got the slides here. Next, just kind of going line by line with our budget. I know Casey had kind of asked to give explanation of any kind of changes. So employee salaries increase, looking at 89,000, a little over that. Earlier this year, I had put this together originally back in, I believe, April, leading into the first primary that we had. So this would incorporate a 3% raise, as well as that the additional part-time staff, as I'd mentioned, we might need there at the end of the year in late November into December, preparing for the 2024 presidential primary. There's also a small increase for our board member salaries, which is required by Senate Bill 296, and then the associated increase in PERS that would go along with that. Next item, a decrease in postage of 23,000. We certainly expect, while I expect the mayoral races to bring out people, I definitely anticipate there'll be less people that are voting by mail. So the $23,000 decrease there. $32,000 increase in computer system software. Just like everybody else, we've been affected by some of the inflation that's going on. A lot of our different vendors have just increased costs for some of our services, as well as the Secretary of State's office has required new security directives and amendments to all of our contracts that we have. And a lot of those costs are going to then be passed off to us in higher fees for some of those contracts. Equipment, the decrease of the $400,000, most of that is basically because of the poll books that you had approved for the purchase in 2022. We certainly won't need that in 2023. Contract purchase services, decrease of $25,000. That's also in relation to the new e-poll books. That piece was also used this year to acquire software and some support that they had for this, the initial implementation. Booth worker salaries, we were looking for an increase in $17,000 to cover the increase in poll worker pay. Through grants that we had received earlier this year, we were able to increase our poll worker pay from base pay for a regular poll worker from $150 to $200, and for managers to $200 to $250. We were able to do that for the August primary, as well as this past general election. I think a number of things helped us get through this last November election with a good number of poll workers. We did not have a shortage at all for this past election. Very pleasantly surprised to see that. I think part of it was this increase. This $17,000 would allow us to continue that increase going into 2023. Professional services, just a small increase there, basically due to some inflation. Building rent, a handful of our polling locations do require some kind of fee for us to rent them. A number of them have come back over the last year asking for more money. So this is a small increase there of the nearly $3,000 for additional rent for our polling locations. And then a $23 increase for our dues to our Association of Election Officials. That's based upon the census. So because of the census numbers from 2020, they went up. They're finally now implementing that increase for us as a membership to the Association of Election Officials for Ohio.
Really gonna have to work on that number, that $23.
23. A lot of counties went down, so we were, because their populations went down.
Can I interrupt you with a quick question?
Sure,
on the
sure.
polling locations?
Yeah.
And I don't want to put you on the spot, roughly how many of them gave you a price increase? I mean, you don't have to be exact, but just.
I would say probably a good dozen. Of the nearly 80 polling locations that we have, I would say approximately 35 to 40 of them get compensation. The other ones do it as a community service. And of that group that do get compensation, it's not always like the rental of the hall. A lot of times what it is, you know, the facility will say, look, we'll let you come in and use this place for free, but if I have to have this guy come in and open the place and be there at 5 o'clock in the morning, you need to pay this guy because he's coming in to open the place. So some cases it's just we're paying a janitor or whoever. But a lot of them are a lot of the social clubs that we have, or some of the VFWs and those kind of places that are looking for potential increases.
Taxpayer-supported buildings.
Yeah, taxpayer-supported buildings, any place like a school or like Black River Landing that we have in Lorain, those places by law cannot charge us. However, we do pay them because, once again, we pay for the janitor or whoever it is that comes in. And in some cases, you know, they've asked for an increase for that person too.
That makes sense. Thank you for clarifying.
Staff training, we're looking to increase that line item by $36,000 for a few different reasons. Number one, just like a lot of election offices in this country, we have a number of new staff members. And it's important for us to get them properly trained. The Association of Election Officials has partnered with Ohio State University to do a certification program for election officials. We would like to get a good number of our younger staff members or newer staff members involved in that training, gearing up for the 2024 election. This would also include some GIS training. We need some assistance there with our new mapping system that we are implementing, and then also train the poll worker trainers that we have, giving them some additional time to work with the new poll books that we're going to be implementing so that they can properly train our poll workers going into the May election. Decrease of $85,000 for printing and advertising. Once again, this goes back to what we expect to be a large decrease in people that are going to be voting by mail for the 2023 elections. These next two accounts are new accounts that we added because I guess we were told that we needed to add different accounts for these specific expenditures. So utilities, that would be a $12,000 request. That's to pay for the cell phones that we use for our election day staff, particularly technicians that are out in the field on election day to communicate back and forth with us. And then copy services, that is the $6,500, that is for our copy machines that we have in the building to pay for that. And Jim, would you like to add anything?
I can certainly attest to the technicians being out there, because where I vote, they had one machine that was down and he was out there working on it, so I can attest to that is true.
Well, like I
They are
say,
out there.
Paul and I have a lot of years of experience between us, and we always prepare for the races that are like razor thin, you know?
And in many cases, like the worst-case scenario, you know, making sure that we have.
I remember he had fixed the machine, and then the next person came up to vote, and it went down again. But he was there waiting to make sure it was working properly. Did I
That was all I
interrupt you,
had.
Jimmy? I'm sorry.
Oh, did you have it?
That's pretty much all I have. I'll let Paul do the speaking.
Well, that concludes my presentation. If the commissioners had any questions.
I was just going to say, to educate the public, if you can give a little bit of breakdown of, you know, some of the components that the state actually picks up the tab and other components where we pick up the tab.
So in 2023, a municipal election year, in that case, a large share of the cost is bore by the communities that put issues on the ballot. So that's why when I come back for, in a year from now, for 2024's budget, you will see that first slide, or this third slide, I believe, where it showed chargebacks. That'll be significantly higher because we'll be receiving all of the funds that all the different communities that put on races in this year's election will come due the tax bill for 2024. In an even-numbered year, though, the county, by law, is required to bear the vast majority of that cost. That's shown, once again, by that slide of that only 125,000 in chargebacks. The only thing that we can charge back local communities for in an even-numbered year is the cost of printing the ballot itself. Other than that, all the other costs of it, like poll workers, part-time staff members, overtime pay, all that stuff has to be borne by the county. In 2023, all those things can be charged back. So each community, if North Ridgeville has a primary election in May, or Amherst has a primary election in May, we're going to go through a very complicated formula set up in the state law that divvies up what the cost is and then who pays what share. If there's a county issue that goes on the ballot, then the county does pick up whatever that share of that election cost is, even in a even-numbered year. But it is definitely one of the more complicated things, because I get calls all the time from treasurer for a school district that will say, oh my goodness, why did we get this huge tax bill? We put an issue on in 2021, why did this happen, whereas in 2020 we put something on and we didn't get charged this much? Well, you put it on in a year where the county doesn't have to bear the vast majority of that cost. You have to bear it. And sometimes communities will call, I've had a number of school treasurers call me and say, well, we didn't put an issue on the ballot in 2021, why are you charging this? I said, well, you had candidates on the ballot because you had school board members that were on the ballot. So even if it's not an issue that they place on the ballot, they have to bear the cost of candidates that they put on the ballot as well. So I will mention, since you bring it up, including of those chargeback costs, one of the things that we have done over the years, and I've worked with Casey on this and previously Lisa when she was in that position, in odd-numbered years, to reduce our comp time quantities, our board has approved that our full-time staff members can receive overtime pay. And what we then do, because that is a chargeback, they can be charged back to the communities that put on those elections in an odd-numbered year. Then there have been times when I'll send a letter off to Casey at the end of the year and say, you know, in order to get to the end of the year, we need X amount of dollars to cover because of overtime pay, but it's a chargeback cost, and it's not something that is not going to be reimbursed back to the county. Okay. So hopefully that clarified things to make it more, you know, complicated. Because charges are quite complicated in the way that we handle them.
It is. Probably have one more comment.
Yeah.
And then in the election business, it seems like it's been a nonstop, always a new security directive coming out that we're getting hit with. And the good thing is this year, back in June, when the Secretary of State was working on a new directive, that Lorain County was one of 5 counties that was selected to run this pilot. And then they provided us with $10,000 to implement it. Then the directive became official, but some of the stuff in this directive is going to be like an ongoing cost that we'll be having to bear.
What a surprise. What a surprise. Yeah, I think we're working on a security issue, I think, right now for you folks, so.
And Mr. President, so you guys had the remodel over there that was funded by the American Rescue Plan Act grant dollars. And just wondering what the feedback was from those folks that were coming into early vote that maybe hadn't seen the updates.
Yeah, we had a lot of good comments of people of how the new setup is in the office. It worked out very well. There were many days where we were processing nearly 1,500 people in our office each day, and the flow went very, very easily and very quickly. So that really helped the way that our office is laid out. I know that there's going to be additional work done with the walls and some other stuff that'll be coming up soon, but that initial change in our layout did very much help the process at the Board of Elections, and we definitely heard some good comments.
Oh, that's good. When I went into my polling place and checked in, there were two gentlemen there, and one of them did mention the updates there, and I did mention it to Karen Perkins, our facilities director, deputy administrator. So I know you guys are working together to kind of fit in things in between each election. So I hear there's wallpaper and painting and other things still yet to be accomplished over there.
Yeah, and this is actually the best time to do that. Last year, when this was done, Karen worked with us at the time to make sure that all of that happened during the winter months, which is really the best time for that to happen for us.
Okay, well, great. I'm glad to hear you got some good feedback from the
Yes,
folks.
absolutely. Thank you very much for your support on that.
Anything else?
Get back and count.
We will do that.
Yeah, you gentlemen have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank
You're
you.
supposed to like whip your wallet out and go keep
Yeah.
it fair, man. Keep it-
I think we're just gonna take a pause right now, and then we'll return here in about 5 minutes.
We're waiting for the judge, right?
Thank you.
Yes.
And we return to our budget hearings. Up next, Common Pleas. I know we have Judge Cook here and members of your team as well. Good morning.
May we approach?
Oh, you're the judge. You can
Yeah.
approach any bench you want to approach.
This is
so-
your.
Yeah,
this
but you
is
notice
your-
we don't have to stand, we're not asking
no.
to stand either, so.
No. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to be here. We will be relatively brief. We were told, despite your enjoyment of last year's PowerPoint, we did not need a PowerPoint this year, so we will comply with that request. I am Chris Cook, for the record. I'm one of the 6 General Division judges. And I have brought our chief, our administrative staff, our crack administrators, Sherry Clauser, who's our chief administrator, and Deb Tansey, who's our deputy. They will be the ones who will give you a brief presentation because they know a lot more than I do about it. So with no further ado, I'd like to introduce Sherry Clauser.
Thank you, Judge. Good morning, Commissioners,
Morning.
Mr. Saunders, Ms. Upton. Thank you for having us today. You know I am a chatter and I like to speak, so I am going to hit a little bit of our highlights before I turn it over to Deb for the main monetary presentation. This past year with the Common Pleas Court, our judges have held 43 jury trials. Judge Cook's driver's reinstatement program to date has helped over 300 people reinstate their driving privileges. And this year, our civil stalking protection orders have gone up, unfortunately. And last year, they were 379 total. This year, we have 440 as of today. For our probation department, we do have a new director that was hired. Her name is Joellen Mitchell. Our probation staff are currently supervising almost 2,400 offenders in the county. Our child support officers this year collected $605,000, $940.16 in the last year. And since 2009, we've collected over $11 million for those that are owed back child support. This year, we had 2 officers that received recognition. We had Jen Parker, who was named the Critical Incident Training Line Officer of the Year for the state of Ohio. And we had Spencer Grummel, who was named the Law Enforcement Officer of the Year by the National Alliance on Mental Illness. In addition, we have 3 specialized dockets. They are all certified fully by the Supreme Court, and those specialized dockets are funded through grant funding at no cost to the county. That's all I wanted to hit for this year, and I'm going to turn it over to Deb Tansey, my Deputy Administrator.
Good morning, Commissioners, Ms. Upton, Casey. I just wanted to begin and let you know how give you an overview of how we develop our budget. First, administration seeks input from the departments to determine our needs, any legislative changes or challenges for the upcoming year. Then we prepare a working budget for the administrative judge to review. We discuss and get feedback on additional considerations. Then we prepare a draft that's presented to all the judges at a judges meeting for approval or any additional changes. And that then is our tax budget. It's then submitted to the Board of Commissioners for budgeting purposes. The court continues to monitor for legislative changes or other challenges throughout the year to determine if any adjustments are needed throughout the year or for subsequent years. You will note some changes in the budget that is before you today as compared to the tax budget that was submitted in May. For example, these are some of the concerns that we discussed to help create a budget that presents the reasonable and necessary expenses for the functioning of the court for the upcoming year. We discussed legislative or other changes that might affect the courts. Capital cases. Capital cases are very expensive. If they ultimately end up before a jury, they are even more expensive. This is obviously a constitutionally mandated requirement. Capital cases frequently include court-paid experts and transcript fees for possible appeals, which can both be a significant expense. The number of capital cases that come before the court is outside of our control. We can, however, make attempts to prepare for those costs. We also consider changes to the state's reimbursement rate for the court-appointed counsel. Over the years, the reimbursement rate has been as low as 23%. It is currently 100%. The current 100% rate is practically unheard of and is unlikely to last. I think we have an estimate for next year of 95%, which is also very significant and greatly appreciated. We discussed the state of foreclosures in Lorain County as another consideration. Foreclosures are moving forward for now. There's a huge backlog in the pipeline. Our foreclosure department has been working through this backlog, but it will take some time. And revenue in the form of fees has begun to trickle in slowly.
These funds are used to sustain the staffing in those departments. At least for now, the moratoriums have ended, and we are monitoring the fluid state for any changes. We considered upcoming changes to the U.S. Postal Service procedures and the implications for the court. Much of what we do is time-sensitive. Dates mailed and received have enormous impacts in our world. Many court rules specify triggering events which can start the clock running on a show cause order or a default judgment or wage garnishment. The inflation rate is always a concern. The final budget was prepared, or the May budget was prepared during an inflationary rate of nearly 9%. We are currently experiencing a slight reduction in that rate it is currently 7.7%. The common pleas judges have not indicated that they think any additional changes to the budget are warranted at this time. We also discussed staff retention. Staff retention has become a concern for most businesses during these times, and courts are no different. In the past year, we have experienced a 12% turnover in staff. Staff turnover is not only expensive in terms of training costs and productivity loss, but it can also impact legal outcomes in cases and citizen satisfaction. Before you is the budget request that the court ultimately decided best represents the reasonable and necessary expenses for the functioning of the court for 2023. You have some slides in front of you. Our overall budget for 2023 is $9,342,894. Of this, our general fund request is $4,874,802. This budget is consistent with our 2022 budget request, with an additional 5% increase in salaries and salary-related items, an 8% increase in supplies and gasoline. Our general fund represents 52% of our budget, which is a 1% decrease from 2022. The remainder of our 2023 budget, $4,486,092, comes from grants and court fees. This portion of our budget represents 48% of our overall budget. To further break this down, on the next slide you'll see court and probation fees make up 3% of our budget, federal grants make up 3%, state grants represent 36%, which is an increase of 1% over 2022, and special revenue accounts, which contribute 6%. And then finally, we have provided you with some information from other comparable counties in the state. Butler County, the 7th largest county, has a combined cost per case of $1,523. Stark County, the 8th largest county, has a combined cost per case of $1,844. Lorain County, as the 9th largest county, we have a combined cost per case of $1,052. This cost per case information further illustrates that we are good stewards of the tax dollars that are entrusted to us. Answer any questions you may have.
Questions? No? So I always like to see people being able to stay in their homes if possible. You said the moratoriums have come off, and so we're back at the table on all this foreclosure stuff.
We are, and when I talked to the foreclosure department recently, they also indicated that because there are a lot of loans out there that are adjusted because of interest rate changes, with the interest rates going up, we will probably see more foreclosures in the near future. So.
But there are
Those are adjustable mortgages, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There are programs, though, that our magistrates work with, as long as the homeowner's engaged, and they do try everything possible to keep people in their homes. It's not a rubber stamp process, as long as the homeowner is participating in the process.
Right. And when you look at are we seeing a slowing down in any way of grants, state, federal? Plenty of opportunities there?
Our state grants have grown slightly.
Right.
And then we are also seeing a lot of federal grants that are coming out. We haven't been able to get any of those. I think when you hear from juvenile court, you're going to find they were able to. Okay. But one of the reasons we couldn't get one of the grants that they ended up getting was because during COVID, we were able to maintain our caseloads. The judges did a really great job, and we did not fall behind. A lot of places around the state and around the country fell behind because of COVID in their cases, and we did not.
we applied for a grant for about $500,000 for additional technology and processes to increase our efficiency based upon COVID and based upon increases in docket numbers. And Sherry and I, it's a good point Deb made, as we were about halfway through the process, I had them collect our numbers from 19, 20, 20, 21, 22 to the present, so that we could show the increase in backlog and our dockets to justify the grant. And we couldn't believe it, our numbers were actually better. So our judges, at least in the general division, we worked through it, we got technology, we did Zooms, we came to work. We were not able to apply because our numbers were actually unbelievable, like 10% lower than before the pandemic. So we were efficient in that regard.
Any changes coming down the pike in the way of fines, fees, that category?
I don't really see any at this point. I think we are pretty much maxed out at what we are able to charge,
do.
and although costs continue to go up unless the legislature changes those
Right.
maximums, there's
I
not much we
wasn't
can
sure
do.
if there was any indication
Very
something
little,
was being
yeah.
changed. Okay.
I just want to point one other thing, and I was going to ask Sherry, she wasn't sure. Is there any other entity in the county that is funded by the commissioners that has a budget request of approximately 50% of their actual budget? In other words, this may be, I don't know, is what we are showing you common to, do you see this with some regularity, or is this somewhat uncommon to come and say, we have a $10 million budget, but we're only asking you to fund half of it? Is that something that's ordinary, or is that something somewhat rare?
Casey, you want to take a stab at that one?
I mean,
The reason I'm asking.
We're the budget authority, so everything comes through us anyway. So I don't see it as,
Yeah.
some people cost a lot of money because that's just the way the statute's written. Right?
Okay.
You provide services, sometimes they don't get the revenue in to support their entity. You know what I
It's
mean?
true.
Yes.
It's true. I mean, we're government and we're not supposed to make a profit,
Right.
so.
Is that, well, no, unless you're the clerk of courts.
But you're indicating, yeah, I mean, 52%'s coming, according to your charts here, 52% of your funding is coming from, general fund, and the remaining
Right.
40.
And
I know
I'm
the
just
point you're
asking
trying to
if
make
that's
here,
something
but,
that's,
So that makes us happy, right?
yeah,
of
right.
course.
May I, Mr. President? Was gonna say, well, Casey can speak to that, but it is, when we're up here, we're usually asking the question, are you applying for grants? You are telling us you're applying for grants, and
Right.
it's, 50% of your budget, and I certainly appreciate that.
okay,
Well, anything we can do to provide more services, of course, we're gonna do that.
right.
And it's good to hear, you're telling us a story that you're going after a grant, but you can't go after the grant because,
only ones that
you
can order
can't
a
prove the backlog.
That's
and-
right.
And that your numbers are good, so, letting the public know you are going after the money.
Yeah, and I-
Steve, if you want to add to that.
I mean, I think every department, is a unique situation.
It's that microphone.
So I think your guys' situation is unique. But like I said, that can be said across the board. Different setups, whether it be special revenue, levies, general fund. But I think the simple answer to your question is, I think your guys' situation is unique.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Well, it's so unique that if you guys don't have the money, you just order it anyway, right?
I knew you were going to go there. It took you to the end of the meeting.
Well,
Throw-
Matt
you
and I
throw
were
down
wondering
there
who was gonna
talking
say-
about him like he holds the ace card. He can throw down the order anytime.
We were
he
wondering
wants.
who wanted to say it.
I knew.
We were doing a rock, paper, scissors here.
I knew it'd be you, Dave.
No, I
Commissioner
wanted
Moore.
rock, paper.
But, the truth of the matter is, and I know I speak for the judges, we've had a good relationship with the commissioner. The last thing in the world we would want to do is
Right.
do that. We want to come to you and hopefully justify what we're asking for, so that you in good faith feel that it's appropriate. And
Right.
that would be, at least definitely for me, it's the last thing I would want to do.
We want to be good partners.
Right.
So, and how's the legal fees in regards to clerk of courts? You guys see some resolution soon on that?
Oh, you're talking about the
Yeah,
program?
yeah.
I would say that our relationship in working with the clerk has been positive lately, where at a time it was a little bit contentious because the clerk they had invested so much manpower and energy and effort in getting that program working. I think there was a little reluctancy to say, when we said we didn't think it was going to work, I think we're over that, and both sides are now kind of coming together to work.
good.
My hope is that, I know that there was a request some months ago for council, that hopefully that's not gonna be necessary from the clerk.
Okay,
You know,
that's even
we're
better.
hoping to work together with them and come to you with a pretty unified proposal of where we're at. So I don't see that situation. As I stand here today, in my most recent updates, I do not see that situation devolving into a problem for the commissioners or the citizens.
Okay, that's good news.
Great.
That's what we like to hear.
I hope.
Yeah, we got Formica knocking Formica.
Yeah,
There you go.
not gonna play fake,
Got
yeah,
simulated wood,
right.
yeah.
So, okay, very good.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you all for your time.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Judge. And at this point, we're going to pause, and we'll pick it up here in about 10 minutes.
Yeah, Mark.
And we return for our budget hearings. Up next, Recorder Mike Duran and Deputy Recorder Jeff Bear. Good morning, or good, almost afternoon. We're at noontime now, so yeah.
Good noon,
Yeah, good noon to you. Good noon to you.
commissioners, secretary, director,
Casey?
Casey. Oh,
It's your show, bud.
oh, it's my show. All right. I was expecting a question or something. I don't know. All right.
Why are you here?
We're ready
So-
to go.
Your budget.
Awesome. So
All right.
from the first floor comes the recorder. All right. So on the first page, we're just going over the, wait, oh, there it is. All right. It's like it's not on the screen. All right. So employee salaries are up to 528,509. That's due to increases based on the pending union contract. The salary for the elected official, that's me. PERS, that's their, well, you know, that's their retirement. Other 15,000 for a total of 712,762. This is the breakdown of the general fund, just as to which individual accounts those would all be going into. And then these are the changes between 22 and 23. Our, let's see, hold on a second. So yeah, we, this year so far, we are, year to date of that 1,149,679. We're estimating for the total for the year to be 1,400,000. And then next year, we're actually estimating lower down to 1 million of the recording fees to go into the general fund. That's due to there's not as many refis going through, so it reduces the number of total recordings that we end up with. This next page actually also just goes over the fees, the breakdown of how the fees are. You have your miscellaneous fees, recording fees, miscellaneous revenue, and then refunds and reimbursements. There's nothing on those bottom two, but we have them on there nonetheless. And then this shows the equipment fund budget is going to increase to 242. That's going to cover contractual services. And we're working with our vendor to finish scanning and indexing the older books. That was part of that project we talked to you guys about earlier in the year. Next page is just a breakdown of that 242 as to which parts of the fund do everything on that.
And that's where that increase that we just did.
Yeah, that's what the, actually, this next page shows the increase that you just did, but we had a little bit of a typo on that. That second line right there, it says we collect $7 per recorded document, it's actually $6. So that changes that 294 down to 252, and that's assuming that we can get that, that number of documents in that we had done. And then this fund is for day-to-day operations and special projects.
If I could,
Oh, go
is
ahead.
it question time, or are you done?
Yeah, question
Sorry,
time.
Go back to the increases on the payroll, and I know we just got the contract, it was put on our desk yesterday for review.
All right.
So was that 14,000 or 17,000? What was that? Can you just go over that real quick?
What
On
was,
that increase from the contract?
was the increase from the contract, Jeff, exactly? Do you have that?
Wait,
It doesn't look
Sorry.
like it's factored.
no,
It's over here.
Doesn't look like it's factored in.
Oh,
no,
sorry.
it is, it is. I just didn't remember if it was 14 or 17. I looked at it quickly yesterday.
So for our employee salaries per that CBA contract, and that was following the same guidelines, we went off of the commissioner's contract on those negotiations, so it should fall right in line. Again, the increase was up to 40,000. We used a benchmark system that was implemented for increases and the 3, 3, and 3 format, so. but it was a $40,495 increase on employee salary.
I didn't hear what you said, Jeff.
It was a $40,495 increase on salary.
Gotcha, I got it. I had my mind on something else, and I just realized what it was.
Oh, fair.
So you don't have your equipment fund tied into your general fund, correct? That the way you do this?
Correct.
You got the 712 requested?
Yeah, so the
And then-
712
and
is the
what's it
general
called, the
fund.
recorder's equipment fund?
Yeah, the recorder's equipment fund is,
That's what we're talking about, all the different changes here. the
yeah,
six-
there's the breakdown of the
trying to
equipment
find
fund
it
right there.
So this is right, 242, is that the real number? That's what I show here. Equipment fund,
242 for operational
242 is
Right.
for the equipment fund.
yeah. And what's the projected revenue?
252.
Okay,
That,
So basically that 42,000,
just a wash. pretty much.
well, it'll go to the general fund instead of ours.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And it's hard to make that prediction off of the document count. The size of the documents contributes to the general fund, not the equipment fund. So we collect the $6 per document, so I can use a 42,000 document average to guesstimate our budget. But when it comes to the revenue for the general fund, it depends on the documents along with the size of the documents, because there'll be a collection for each extra page that just goes right to the general fund.
you did not give the KC a copy of this, that's why he's taking a
Oh,
look here.
we didn't email him a copy? I thought we emailed him a copy. Oh. Did,
It's okay, he
We
can.
did.
Is it with the email?
Okay, okay, so it's,
We have a hard copy.
Sure.
okay, great, yeah. So it's not that you didn't give it, you forgot to print it.
that's fair.
That's okay.
How's the scanning process while we have you here?
How's the scanning process going? They actually started, was it 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Yep, so we got the process started 2 weeks ago. They've got, there's 100 books right now that they started on, and when they finish those, they'll move on to the next section and so on and so forth. So projected, should be less than a year, I believe, right?
I think complete, we should be done by the end of next year with the scanning's the small portion of it. It's the actual indexing and putting it in, converting it into searchable data online. That's gonna take the time, but we're predicting by the end of next year that's finished.
Can you explain how old some of the documents are? And they may even have BC at the end of them.
No, we don't quite go to BC. I mean, before our time maybe, but 1824, May 11th was actually, 1824 was the first document
really?
recorded in the office. yeah.
Really?
And I don't have the, we have a retyped book of that was retyped in the late 1800s when they actually got typewriters. Like, hey, let's typewrite, it's, new technology. They must use their technology fund back then.
Yeah.
They didn't have whiteout, though.
They didn't have one. No, they didn't.
When they come in, Mike, and they're dealing with these old books, I mean, is this just like the white gloves and everybody just so carefully handling it? How does that process work?
See, you would hope and think that would be how it's done, but they're just using their hands, and we try to. That's why we're trying to make everything available online, and the books only available to my staff at some point in time.
When that project gets done, you should come up here and show us. I mean, is the oldest book allowed to come out, or is it,
Yeah,
like under lock and key?
I could bring them up there. I could bring them up here.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Just to show the public.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep, I was in yesterday. I transferred some property and got scanned in. It was painless and quick.
Yeah, scanned in, hand it right back
Yep.
to you.
Yep.
There's some new legislation you want us to advocate for?
Oh, there was House Bill, was it 247 or 248?
237.
237. House Bill 237 is to put in a preservation fee on the documents for the recorders. It would be $5. And there's a couple other things as well that would help some of the other recorders throughout the state that don't yet have their books scanned in. There's a few recorders that are still just working off of books, especially in these smaller counties that have populations of 30,000 and those kind of stuff. So it would be definitely great for them to be able to move forward and get to the point where they can be online and have searchers search.
Yeah, I was telling the recorder when I was in Columbus, the recorders in the state felt like they were kind of the Rodney Dangerfields of Ohio, because it just seemed like the recorders couldn't get the respect and get some of the fees that they needed, and so I'm glad to see that we're making progress there.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to the importance of the recorder's office, because we go back, so land ownership originally was the king owned all the land. We didn't have any kings over here, but even before that, there, and then you had the lords of the land, where we developed. That's where the term landlord comes from, because they own the land and you live in it. But then eventually it was done where people could buy and own their own property, and in order to prove that you owned the property, anybody could make this paper here says that I own this property. Well, how do I know that? How do I verify that? And that's why we have the recorder's office, so that we can make sure that goes back as far as you can in time to prove that you really are the owner of this property and you have the authority to transfer that from you to the next person, or that the person that you're buying it from has the authority to give it to you, or the bank knows that you have the authority to take a loan out on that.
Yes.
So you mentioned the scanning project in other counties, and I'm not going to hold you to knowing the number, Mike, but where are we ranking as far as, we're doing this project, and where are the other counties at, and how many are doing the scanning project? Where are we kind of like ranking in the state with the others?
So as for scanning projects, most everybody has them. There's probably about 2 or 3 counties that have every single document scanned in and ready to search, so we're not there yet. But there are a decent amount of counties that do need to get things scanned in, especially their older documents. I mean, I don't believe that there are any counties that are still writing down into the books. So the majority, like all of the counties, as far as I know, have some sort of system that they put in. So as to when they put those in, we started scanning documents in 1996, obviously, so 30 years ago almost. Well, actually 28, but some of them didn't start until 2012 or 2014, actually, like bringing a system in and scanning in on that. So we're definitely ahead of some of them, but we're not leading everything just yet, because there are some counties that do have 100%, but there's a lot that don't.
Okay, well, thank you, and I kind of put you on the spot with that one,
That's
sorry.
fine.
Yeah, thank you very much. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you, gentlemen.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. At this time, is there any other business? No? We have a clerk's report.
Just, there will be no meeting next week. We are closed Thursday and Friday.
And you've declared that in the land, so, yes, okay.
Yes.
It's so
Unless
declared.
y'all want to meet.
Okay. Well, at this time, we are adjourned.